myself, Tony Napoli. Today we have a special guest. Today we have Mary Boom Boom Maisano. I was going to say Mancini from the Italian Chick. She's a wonderful lady. She's a very talented singer, songwriter, actress. But let's see what she has to say about everything that is going on. Let's bring her on. And let me see. There she is. Let me bring.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
How are you, Maryann? How you been, honey?
Very
Wow.
good, very good. The last time I saw you, I was able to hug and kiss you in person, and now we can't even do that.
I know it's crazy. We've known each other for quite a few years now. You know,
Yeah.
we worked together. We had actually we always had a great time together.
Oh,
You and your girls. But let me introduce you to everybody. I want to know who's, in your own words, who's Maryann Maisano.
Maryann Maisano is someone who loves people and likes to be impactful on somebody's life.
That it's it. Come on, it's a lot more than that. I know. Now, let me ask you a question. When did you start doing your live shows? Did you start as a single artist, or did you start with Italian Chicks?
Actually, years ago, I started as a singer in a rock and roll band. To be quite frank with you, and
That I did not know. That's a surprise to me.
yeah, I was a singer in a rock and roll band, and then I was in wedding bands, and I would get so bored doing the wedding stuff, and I used to tell the guys in the band, when we're up here doing cocktail music, nobody listens to what we say because they're too busy eating the shrimp. And the guys in the band would be like, no, they listen. So one day the band leader calls the song. Remember the song, The Girl from Ipanema?
Yes.
So he goes, we're going to do Girl from Ipanema. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So, they start the tempo, and I figured now it's my chance to prove my point, right? So they start, and I start singing, and I do this. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl with emphysema goes walking, and when she passes each one, she passes, goes. You know what? The audience didn't move. I said, look, the audience is still eating their shrimp like everything is fine in Ipanema. You see, guys? So after like the days of remember live bands were over, and then it went back to folk music, and so then I was doing just me and my guitar, and I performed first time ever by myself with just me and my guitar in this restaurant. And when I started to sing this song, I never forget, it was like some kind of melody folk song. I could hear everybody talking. I could hear the waiters talking. I could hear the conversations. I could hear the glasses. And I started to sweat. And I'm going to myself, oh my God, playing my guitar. Like, this is the longest song in history. I'm going to die. I'm going to die up here. And when I got done, I stood up and I threw my guitar on my shoulder. And I started pacing back and forth on the stage. And I started talking about the decor in the restaurant, the people eating there. Oh, hey, first time you going out tonight? First time you taking them out for dinner to get a little bit. And I talked for a half an hour straight. And I had them like in the zone. And then I sat down and I said, I want to do a song for you. And they listened. And that's when it was like, for me, see, I'm not really a formatted comic. I'm a storyteller. So for me, I liked to be able to sing a little bit and then stop and then talk about stuff. So that's how it kind of worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to work with you in different occasions, and I did love your parodies.
Thank you.
My favorite was The Leader of the Pack.
Oh, you like that one? The Leader of the Pack.
That was a really funny song. So when did you start working with the Italian Chicks? Whose idea was it?
Well, actually, it was mine. I was, see what happened, Tony. My father, I don't know if you know this, my father was born in Reggio Calabria, in Bagnara, and my mother was from Naples. So I grew up very strict Italian, how the Italian fathers are, right? And my father, every time he'd see me with my guitar, he would say to me, "Ma, what do you do with that guitar, huh? You crazy hippie bastard, huh?" And I'd be like, my mother loved it. No matter what I did, my mother would be like, "Oh, babe, that song was beautiful."
When did you start learning the guitar?
I'll tell you, I was 12 years old, and my brother took me down the shore to the boardwalk, you know, where they have all the games and stuff.
Right.
And we were at a game of chance with the big wheel, and I put a quarter on number 30. And when I spun the wheel, I'm watching it go around, and all of a sudden it lands on number 30, and I'm like, oh my God, it won. And they had TVs, guitars, anything. And my brother goes, put the TV. I go, I don't want the TV. I want the guitar. You know how to play. I go, I'm going to teach myself. And I got the guitar. And then when I got home, I went to the music store, and I bought all these books. And every day when I got home from school, I go in my room, and I'd be like, And finally, after 2 months, the first song I learned how to play was House of the Rising Sun. And I played it every day for a month. Great song, right? And I played it every day for a month. And my mother not once came in and said, Maryann, can you please learn another song? She would always say, oh, baby, that was beautiful. So my mother was like my biggest fan. And my father and I always did this.
Right.
So one day...
Testatura, so.
Testatura, sì. That's right, you're right. And so one day my father said to me, you know, you better do a real job under the benefits. And I heard him say,
That's what you're...
what I heard. You can't do shit. So, because like I said, him and I always fight it. And I said, oh, yeah, you don't think I can do anything. Yeah, watch this. So I walked into a local bank, and I got a job as a teller. And then they promoted me to accounting. And then before you know it, I became accidentally successful. And I was vice president of sales and behavior modification. And I ran 90 offices throughout Jersey. And I was making, I got to remember, I was a struggling musician who had very little money, you know, and all of a sudden I went from that to making a lot of money. And, you know, in the Bible, there's a passage that says, the love of money can be the root of all evil. Yeah. Love of it. And that's true, because all of a sudden I had all this money, and I had, you know, the big Cadillacs and the Mercedes, and then, and you know what? I got trapped in this world, and I was so unhappy, and I hadn't performed, and I hadn't written a song in like 10 years. And then one day I'm delivering this motivational seminar to the sales team. And it was at the time when all the banks were taking over other banks. So I had to get these people on board. Otherwise, if they didn't get in shape and learn how to be salespeople, they were going to be pink slipped and have no job. So I remember saying to them, walking in one day and saying, okay, I want to, by a show of hands, how many of you, when you were little, wanted to be a banker when you grew up? And nobody raised their hand. I go, of course not. You want to be a ballerina or a fireman. Come on, that's what you wanted to be. And I said, listen, I'm telling you now, if you had a passion years ago, you better find it again. And as soon as I heard that, I said to myself, wow, I'm not living my passion.
Right.
And the next day I walked into the chairman and CEO's office, and he personally gave me that job. And I thanked him, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I resigned my 6-figure position.
Yeah, I regret it.
And it was so funny because my father had already passed away, but my mother was alive. And I didn't tell my mother because I was afraid, because I was the only kid in the family that kind of made it big. You know what I mean? Yeah. With that back in the day, you know, who was a hairdresser, who was this, who was that. And so I felt bad because, you know, they relied on me for a lot to help. So I didn't want to say nothing because I thought she'd be worried and this and that. So I kept my mouth, you know, right? And then all of a sudden, the one thing I wanted to do as soon as I resigned, I came home and I wrote a CD of music. Tony, it was like, I wrote it in less than 2 months because everything just poured out of me. I was free. I didn't have the politics and all that shit in my head, you know? And then I wanted to, my second plan was, after I did the CD, I put it on iTunes and all that stuff, right? And then on that CD was the song City of Light. And my sister, my older sister, went to a wedding. And at that wedding was Danny Aiello. Yeah. And she walked over to Danny Aiello and she said, this is my sister's CD. Could you please listen to her music? And I was shocked because my older sister is shy. Okay. And 3 months later, Danny called me and said that he wanted to record my song, City of Light. And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. So that was nominated for a Grammy. And I was like, wow. I mean, the best thing, right? And then after that, while that was happening, I was putting together the Italian Chick because I always wanted to create a show that would support the cultures and traditions of Italian Americans.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, by knowing the girls that are part of your show, either they are in the war. I mean, you had a great lineup with some of the girls that did a lot of good stuff on their own rights.
Absolutely. And that's what it was all about. It was about finding women that, because everybody's different. We're all the same. We all grew up basically the same way, but we all come from different. It's just like our dialects were different, right?
Right.
Like if you're from Sicily, you have a different dialect than somebody from Calabria or Napolitan, or so we're all slightly different in how we did things, or how we made the meatballs, or how we made the sauce, right? So that's what it was for me, to find all these women that were Italian, but everybody grew up differently. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole show, I mean, my comedy set, yeah, there's Italian here, Italian there, but I throw in other things. But I'm Italian, so it doesn't matter. I can say what I want. So it was very important for me to find the right people. And I did. And then as time went on, I thought it would be more important to really mix things up. And I thought it would be beneficial for the audience, and it'd be beneficial for me and my creativity to continue to add more excitement, more juice. And that's when I started changing the show and adding more women. And Mary Domino, who's a great comic. Mary's no longer on the show.
Broadway as well.
Yeah, she's great. But I got Regina DeChico, who is just brilliant. I mean, Regina is the warm-up comic for ABC's View.
Correct.
And this kid, from the day I met her, I looked at her and I said, you are going to do something, kid. And I still believe that with Regina. There's something magical about Regina.
She's such a wonderful woman.
Yeah, she's great. She's so funny and in the moment, really. So I got Regina, I got Teresa Canastracey, I got Cara Amore. Where do you get a girl? How do you find a woman named Cara Amore?
You have John,
That was made in heaven.
Scarda,
Yeah, and then I got Jula Brand, I got Gianna Messina. I got a bunch of girls in Los Angeles because I have a separate show. It's the Italian, but it's the Los Angeles Italian Chicks. And that's been put on hold right now because I was going to start moving that like towards the latter part of the fall. But with everything going on, we don't know what's going on,
So if somebody comes and see the Italian Chicks, what do they expect to see?
Well, the Italian Chicks it's not just a comedy show. The Italian Chicks is an experience. That's what I say. And the reason why is because we take you back to a time and place when life was simpler. And we make you think about things. I mean, there's actually a part within the show where I do a traditional Italian song called Al Di Là. And when I do that song, I set it up with a story, which I think is very important. And I talk about Sunday dinner, because Sunday dinner really made us the people that we are today. It formed our character because we were little and we had all of our family. They would all come over, right? Our cousins and aunts and uncles. And my mother would be up early frying the meatballs, and you'd wake up and you'd smell the meatballs and you'd smell the sauce cooking. And my father would have all the music playing, from Caruso to Jimmy Roselli, and to some, and maybe you'll know, but he was an Italian folk song player from Calabria. His name was Carlo Butti.
Carlo Butti, of course. I mean, you're talking about World War II, post-World War II singer.
Yeah, that's my dad. That was my dad. My dad was in World War II. Yeah. So, I mean, when my father came to America, he was 16. And then when he was 18, he got drafted into the American Army and went back to Europe. Okay. So, I mean, this is all the stuff we heard. And then we had my father brought everybody over from his family, one by one. And so they all stayed with us. And then the cousins would come. So we had a house full every Sunday. And as a little kid, you would sit, well, for me anyway, and I'm sure you were the same, but when my family, they would start talking about the old country, I'd be sitting there eating and we didn't call it pasta. We called it fucking macaroni. That's what we called it, right? Come on, let's get real.
You grew up in Jersey?
I grew up in Jersey. Yeah, born and raised in Fort Lee, right over the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
5 minutes from the George Washington Bridge, yeah. And I mean, I don't know when macaroni turned into pasta. It's almost like when did the pound sign turn into a hashtag?
Me's always been pasta.
Right,
Sauce. But I'm not going to debate you on the sauce gravy thing.
Right. Yeah. Everybody fights about that.
Yeah, it's a war. If you put on Facebook or social media, sauce versus gravy, everybody comes out of the woodwork. It's a war.
I know, and it's crazy. And I explained to them too. I said, listen, it really was how the way you were brought up. And let's face it, if you put a lot of meat in your sauce, it looked like gravy because it got very dark.
Ragu.
Yeah, right. Ragu. I'll leave it at that. Let's just start it, right? So, I mean, I remember sitting at the kitchen table eating the pasta, and it was just like watching a movie. I just was like a little kid, like this and like this, because I'd hear my uncle talk about, the towns in Calabria, and that one of my uncles, he was like a Robin Hood, and he would go and take from the rich and give to the poor, and that boy here, they were after him, and I'm like, wow, I was listening to these stories. So it was just like, I don't know, like you learn so much, and like Italy was like such a magical thing in my mind as a kid, It was this beautiful place with the art, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and the Trevi Fountain and all these spectacular.
Napoli, yes.
Right. All is spectacular, right? So, right. For me, the Italian Chick Show had to incorporate all of those feelings. And so I set up the song by talking about, what we felt on Sunday dinner, and that we don't do that anymore. We have brunch. What the hell's brunch? We show up at the Cheesecake Factory and we order eggs. I mean, like that's not the way it was done. And I really think, sometimes I think, sadly, with this virus, God forbid, in the world, that it's, I think sometimes God wants to put the brakes on things and wants people to stop and think about how important so many things are to us, and that sometimes we let everything go by so fast and we get caught up in everything that we're missing the bigger picture. And so for me, like when I do the Al Di La, people in the audience go from laughing hysterical to then crying, because now they're thinking about their family and their nonna or their people that they don't see anymore. And then I bring out the rest of the Italian chicks and we do these song parodies, so they go from crying to laughing in a minute. And that's what it's about. It's about, it's not like a comedy show where you stand up there and you go, okay, for my next show, I'm going to bring out the next comic, and that comic is it's totally different. And we are there to capture you, to make you remember things and feel things that you haven't felt.
You brought up, you were talking about Sunday dinners,
Yeah.
I know it's almost like a cliche. Everybody says how much they love Sunday dinners. And I think I can speak for myself, but I know a lot of people feel the same way I do. They miss the whole times where on Sundays everybody got together and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's our fault. There's nothing stopping us for actually recreating those moments.
You're right.
So, but I do. That was my favorite time. It was Sunday dinners. It really was.
Right.
In my family, everybody used to bring a little tray of pastries from a local bakeries. Everybody got together, aunts, uncles, and then you grow up and, people got their own families. The cousins have their own families, too big. So instead of inviting anybody, you don't invite anyone, because then it's too many. And then you start losing touch with everybody. That's something that I always miss, because I'm a guy that I love to cook. Oh my God, I love to cook, but I love to cook for my friends. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that. Next time you do a show, you're cooking for me.
Yeah, Absolutely, you know I would do that. So
Okay.
one thing that you were talking about Daniel Yellow, and right before Christmas, December 12th, 2019, Daniel Yellow unfortunately passed away. Great actor, great actor. What was your relationship after that with Danny? I mean, before he passed away, I was, because I know even on your Facebook and all the social media, it's Daniel Yellow presenting the Italian chicks.
Yeah. So Danny endorsed my show, and how that happened was when he when he wanted to sing the song, we got together and he did this amazing music video, and we got to hang out, and then he didn't know about my show. I just started it, and then he came to one of my shows. And this is a classic. I'll never forget this. And we were at this theater in Port Jefferson at the Jeannie Rimsky Theater, and I think you were there. And he was in the audience with his manager Louis, and it was the first time he was seeing our show. And after the show, he came backstage, and he walked over to me, put his arms around me in a bag, and he pulls me away, and he goes, "Kid, you." I go, "What?" He goes, I was praying to God that you would be good. He said, because you know what? You know how many people we go to see shows, and then he goes, I look at my friend Louis, and he looks at me, and I go, Jesus, they suck. He goes, now what are we going to say? He goes, we were so happy. And then he goes to me, I just want to tell you something, kid. He goes, the minute you put your foot on that stage, he goes, that's where you were born to be. And I can see it. I can feel it. And Danny turned into a mentor. He really did. He then said, I want to endorse the show. So he let us take a video endorsement of him, saying how much he loved the show, which was great. He did show up at some shows here and there. He really likes.
So many pictures with you and the girls.
I'm sorry?
I've seen many pictures with Danny, with you and the girls.
Yeah, because he would always come backstage, or he would invite us to his show. Every year he did an annual Christmas show. And he was, not for nothing. He wasn't a bad singer. He was more like a crooner. He wasn't like a crooner. You know what I mean? Like he talked, but he had a way. And you know why? Because he was an actor. And when Danny sang the song, he acted it out. So you really bought into the song because of the way he did it and the way he felt it. It was like like me. People look at me and they see me on stage doing comedy, and then they hear me sing and they go, oh my God, I never knew you. And I'm a different person when I sing, because that's a very personal thing. When I'm singing a real song, it's an emotional thing. So you see something different in me. And that's how he delivered that song. You felt it and you saw something different. So Danny just had, and Danny was very, he was so humble, and he was so generous in the fact that he would call me up and he'd say, "Hey kid," and it was funny because there were many people in this industry that, like these wannabe, I call them wannabe actors, and they might have had a little scene in a plot here where they picked up a meatball and that was it, but hey, they got the IMBD, you know what I mean? So, and they would call me up and they'd see me out in in the city, and they'd say, Danny's girl. What?
Yeah.
You're Danny's girl. What do you mean I'm Danny's girl? Everybody thought I was banging this guy. And I'm like, my God, Danny was like a father to me, more than I can say, honestly. And Danny was so generous. Danny would call me up and he'd say, yo, kid, because he was working on, before he passed, it would have been amazing. It was going to be on Broadway, and it was going to be a musical, and it was called Capone the Musical.
Wow.
And it was all about Al Capone, and he was in rehearsals, and he called me and he said to me, kid, tomorrow, meet me and Louis in the city. He goes, come to rehearsals. And I'm like, I'm in. This was great. And you go in this room, with the piano player in there, and he has a script reader, throw lines out for him, right? And I'm sitting in the back with Louis and we're watching, and this guy's brilliant. Just like remembers all of his shit. He's in it. It was interesting because it was the story of Al Capone while he was in jail, but he got syphilis. in real life. He had syphilis, so he was dying from the syphilis, which was making him go crazy. So in jail, he was having all these flashbacks, and these flashbacks turned into stories and songs.
Oh wow!
It was kind of cool. Like you would never think Al Capone the musical, you know?
Right.
And the songs were beautiful because Al Capone had a thing for his mother, and he would sing this beautiful song about his mom and stuff. And I'd just be in the back of the rehearsal room in awe, just like watching this guy, like it's spectacular. And we get done, and he'd go, come on, we're going to go out and have something to eat. We're walking down the city, and, he'd have his arm around my shoulder, and we'd be talking, and millions of people would stop, and they'd go, oh, my God, you're Danny Aiello. And he'd be like, hey, how you doing? And they'd say, can we have a selfie? And then, yeah. And then he'd go, wait a minute, you done taking a picture of me? Now, this is the person that's way more important than me. Huh. And he'd point to me, and I'd get so embarrassed. I'm like, and he'd go, this is Maryann Maisano, the Italian chick. Come on, take a selfie with her. Come on. And he would always do that. It was always about me when we would be out. And that's a generous person.
Now, yeah, it was an incredible man, for sure. Now, I know that one part of it's the Italian Chicks, the show that you do, but you also are involved in a one-woman show called it used to be the Agita Monologues, now it's called the Agita Play.
Agita the Play, yeah.
Agita the Play. Now, if I'm correct, it's about a young woman that a little crazy into a crazy loving Italian family, although they were oddballs, as you mentioned in your biography.
Right.
So so if people come and see the Agita Play, what can they expect from you?
Wow. Well, when they see the Agita the Play, well, first of all, everybody that comes to the theater gets a little travel packet of brioche. No, I mean it. I hooked up with a company that made, and where they're from? They're in Canada now. Okay, so that's what they get. They get a little travel size thing of brioche. But Agita, it's a dramedy, so it's a comedy drama, and there are scenes where you're laughing hysterical, and there are scenes where you're in tears, because what it does, it's the life and times of a young girl being born in this family who is the youngest of four. I was the baby. And I had two older sisters and a brother who was the oldest, the prodigal son. And then it's also about how being exposed to infidelity as a child skewed my perception of love as an adult. Because my father, God rest his soul, my father was a very handsome, charming man. And I didn't realize it was like we were so much alike. And I didn't realize that until after he passed, because he was very much a storyteller. And he could walk into a room and everybody would love him in a second. And he always wore a three-piece suit, fedora, smoked a cigar, and he had the worst broken English. And when he got here, when he got back from the war, he opened up the first taxi cab company in Fort Lee, and it was called Joe's Taxi. Because my father's name was Giuseppe, okay? And so my father had this cab company, and he hired he took care of everybody, all the cousins, everybody drove the cab, right? And so he was always around town. He had everybody in the car, Gabish. And my mother was at home, and she'd answer the taxi phone. So it was kind of crazy because we grew up in a house where we had CB radios, two telephones. One was a taxi phone, one was a home phone, right? All this shit going on. And then my father was a ladies' man, and my mother knew it. And it was a generational thing back in the day. Back in the day, women like that, they got hurt, they got angry, but they would never leave their husband.
Yeah.
But I was the youngest, and all my sisters and my brother, they were out and married. So I was the little kid home, and my mother would get a phone call from one of her friends going, Mary, your husband's cab is parked down the end of the street. So my mother would pull me off the couch, throw me in the back of the Cadillac, drove it like she stole it, and she'd get out and she would walk over and she would open that cab door and she'd go, "You're full time, you get out of my cab. You never call my company again." And I'd just be sitting there like a crazy person watching all that, like, and then my father, he would just get out of the car and he'd be like so composed, like nothing was going on, like nothing was wrong. And it was very confusing as a little kid watching this. And he would just very indignant and smugly, and he would walk over, he picked up the lady, put her back in the cab, got in the cab, he'd drive off. And my mother would get so nervous that she hyperventilated and she passed out. But when you're 7 years old, I thought she died.
That could not have been easy at all.
No, and like I'd be like, Mom, you dead. And I'm ringing doorbells going, my mom died. And then the ambulance would come and do it. Oh, no, she's fine, honey. She just passed out. She fainted. But so then this is what happened. She'd go home and she wouldn't talk for like 3 days. And then like on the third day, this is what I would hear, Tony. Joe, come and eat. And in my mind, I'd be saying, wait a minute. Did he say he was sorry? Like, why is she cooking for him? Why is she? And then I'd be like, oh, I get it. All is well. Because that was the whole thing. You get mad for 3 days and then you forgot about it and everything went back to normal. Like, all is well. And then until the next time it happened. So, like, it chronicles a lot that happened with my mom and dad. It takes you through, me being in Catholic school and getting thrown out of Catholic school for doing something very bad to the nun, which I won't say. And then winning the guitar, and then, going through the music, and then, with my father's death, which was a very interesting thing because he and I didn't get along because I always felt bad for my mother. And
He passed away.
Huh?
What year did he pass away? When did he pass away?
My dad's been gone now almost 22 years. Wow. Yeah, it's been a while. My mom's gone 6 years. So it was really, so I go through a big scene with me talking to my dad, when he got back from the hospital and he was home. And it's very poignant, the audience really gets it. And then it goes from, my crazy brother doing things that led up to my mom's death. And then I go through a scene about my mom's death, which really takes people to another place. And then, it explains my life about, coming out at a very young age to a very Italian family that, I'm gay. And, well, I really didn't come out. My mother actually went in my pocketbook and found love letters. See, this is how it all works. And she'd be like, oh my God, Maryann, if this is what you want, you're no longer my daughter. I disown you. So, and that's when I said, all right, if you leave, don't ever come back here. You're no longer my daughter. And I said, bye-bye.
Remember what you told me. If you ever decide to switch sides again, let me know.
Hey, listen, if I ever jump the fence, Tony, you're the first guy I'm calling. I'm telling you now.
That's wonderful. I was just reading some messages. We actually have a message from, he's a good friend of mine in Utica, where you have performed there.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel Melito, he says, I'm Maryann. I brought you the pastries when you performed in Utica years ago. So I just wanted to say hello.
Oh, hi, sweetheart. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. We are, once the world opens up again and we all learn how to social distance in a big place, we are coming back because Tony's going to bring us back there. And I hope to see you again.
Actually, that's where everything started between myself and you guys. I was in Utica for a show. And a friend of mine, Renee, she says, I brought the Italian chicks because it was at the Marriott downtown Utica. And Renee goes, you should bring the Italian chicks down. And that's how everything started between between us. But this was, I believe, 2014 or 2015.
I think it was 2015. Yeah, and then you took us. We were in the Palace in Syracuse, right? The Palace Theater.
Yeah, we did the Palace Theater in Syracuse.
The Kodak Theater.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fantastic show.
It was like a whole thing with you. It was like a whole long. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Daniel Melito said it was the Sheraton in Utica.
Say that what?
Daniel Melito said it was the Sheraton in Utica, not the Marriott.
Oh, that's right. The Sheraton. Really? I thought it was the Radisson.
The Radisson. That's right. Now it's the Marriott. But you're right. I think Daniel Melito has been smoking something the last few days. Being inside all cooped
Yeah,
up.
he's crazy. Yeah, you gotta watch out for that oregano. Yeah, I know.
That's right. He's actually a funny man in his own right. So good man. So I mean, now let's talk about a little bit of COVID-19.
Mm.
Obviously, our industry, it's the one. I don't know if people realize that, but we're the last phase of this pandemic. We're the last phase of when people are really gonna come out and support our trade. How are you handling it? I mean, do you have any plans so far for later in the year?
Well, I will tell you, we had a full schedule, which I was so happy about. And then, of course, everything was postponed. One of the, we were going to be at the Union Pack in June, and they rescheduled it for November. Now, I don't know. Like I told the girls, let's be positive about this, but you never know, because between now and then, I think what's going to have to happen is these bigger spaces are going to have to figure out downsize it a little bit so that they can get less people in, which is going to affect everybody. Right. Because, I mean, unless they do 2 shows, if you have a 500 seat theater and you knock it down to 250, well, then you might make the money you were going to make if you book 2 shows.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you do it Friday and Saturday, okay, bam. But if not, it's going to be a long time until they get this vaccine. But then here's the other problem. Then people are going to be afraid. He got to this vaccine. Is it going to kill me? Or you know what I mean? So it's everything is going to be. But everything right now, until this thing is able to be contained, I think we are all going to have to really be social distancing and wearing the masks. So the good thing is that, we have a show where we're on stage one at a time. I do bring the girls up at the end. I got mine too. You got an Italian?
I got the Italian flag.
That's my man. I got one. I have a smiley face on it. And then when I get pissed off, I turn it upside down. That's all. Works both ways. But I think that they're going to have to really figure out how we can do this, because it's different doing a comedy show. You can have some distance between you, but let's say it's the Lion King. How the hell the actors are going to have, you can't with something like that.
See, what does not make sense to me,
mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not an expert, so whatever guidelines I'm going to receive, I will follow. I want to make sure that everybody is safe. I don't want to get anybody sick, and I don't want to get sick.
Me too.
To somebody else. But my question is this: how they're going to do? They will do social distancing maybe at a ball game or at. But how? Then why don't they do it in airplanes?
Well, that's what they're going to try to do now. I mean, I know they screwed up over the weekend. I saw a story about that.
That's exactly what I'm referring
to.
They
had it packed, but all the airlines are supposed to get together, and what they're trying to do now is not sell the middle seat, so that there's the window seat and the aisle seat.
But it's still not really 6 feet. I don't think.
I know.
I honestly think it's going to make much of a difference.
Right. That's the problem. So, I mean, they're also talking about not having to fly unless it's a, essential business or emergency business or something like that. So I guess it's also keeping people. Well, look at what's happening now. I mean, Georgia opened up. God forbid. I mean, they're already getting a spike
Yeah.
in numbers. And you know what stupid people do? The other states that were closed, they get in the car and they drive to Georgia.
Yeah. Right.
And then they create more of a problem. And then they go back and like, I don't know. It's the most frightening thing.
I feel it for both sides. There's people that say, okay, let's stay indoor, let's not get anybody sick. And then the other people are like, if I don't go out and make some money for my family, I won't be able to survive. So I do understand everybody's point. And there's no really right or wrong answer. I think it just everybody's got to get used to try to do the best you can, and hopefully you don't get.
Right. I think if everybody could just, and it's really sad, and I don't want to get into politics. I don't mean this from a political stance, but just an observational place. Okay. I think what's really sad is that I have never seen our country more divided. And what
I agree with you 100%.
Thank you. And what I mean is, like, years ago, I mean, I was always a very political person. My father was that way because he came from another, country, and he was, was on this Democratic Party thing, and he's whatever. But the one thing I remember years ago, there was a candidate. I would vote for the candidate. I liked him, whatever, what he stood for. And if he won, great. If he didn't win, there's no big deal. I mean, like, life went on. I mean, what could happen? Or maybe he put a policy and I didn't like, but guess what? When his term was done, it was done, and then life went on. But it seems like ever since, and I hate to say it because it has nothing to do about Republican or Democrat, because the Republican Party is not the Republican Party it used to be. But it just seems that ever since Trump got in, there's been this division of, God forbid you say something that is against that, then everybody hates you. I've never seen that happen ever in my life. And I think it's turned friendships, even people have lost friendships because of it, which I don't understand.
I know a lot of friendships that ended because of politics, and I lived in this country for about 30 years. I never seen that happen before.
Mm-hmm.
At least not to this degree where two people disagree with politics and our friendship that lasted 20, 30 years is gone.
Right.
I mean, see, for me, I'm more like, if I like somebody and I think that person is true and it could bring a positive change, regardless of the political background, whether he's a Democrat, conservative, liberal, Republican, doesn't matter. I will support that person. If I see that somebody's not a good person and I know there's a scam artist or whatever, I ain't gonna vote it just because he belongs to my party.
Exactly.
That's me. But unfortunately, not everybody sees it that way. It seems like in today's politics, and I will end it there before I'm gonna have 200 haters.
Right.
Unfortunately, today it's like, okay, if you're Democrat, no matter what your candidate does, you're going to support him. If you're Republican, no matter what your candidate does, you will support him. And I don't think that's that's right. I mean, I see politicians that are as dumb as a tennis ball.
Right.
The brains of a tennis ball, but people will support him just because it belongs to a certain party. I mean,
Right.
And then if different, like Fauci right now.
Right.
One day is everybody's hero, the next day is everybody's villain, and I don't even know why.
Right.
So, but like I said,
but I got to admit, I got to tell you the truth. I'm really liking Cuomo.
I think Cuomo did a good job, regardless of how you feel about him, because he's done mistakes in the past.
Oh, totally.
Things that I not agreed with him at all. But I think during the pandemic, he's done
but he's gotten cuter. Even for me, he's gotten cuter. You know what I mean?
Listen, you want to get me jealous? You and I will have a problem.
But Tony, I came up with a new way to greet people, because you do know that we're not going to be able to shake hands anymore.
Yeah, right.
They're going
to elbows.
Well, they were saying the fist bump, but then no, that's not good because it's touching hands and your hands in the air. Then they were saying this, and they said, well, that's awkward because one guy hit somebody by accident in the eye. He didn't mean, he missed. You know what I mean? He missed.
Yeah.
Then they were saying, well, maybe you hit the foot. You kick your foot with each other.
Yeah.
Now you could break a hip. You could fall. We're going to go old school. Remember back in the day when a guy like you, yourself, all handsome and cute with your glasses and shit, you'd be standing.
Beautiful, just gorgeous.
Yeah, you'd be standing on a corner and somebody walked by that you knew and you went like this. How you doing? How you doing?
It's a.
The head nod. That's what it's going to be from now on. You see people, you just go, how you doing? How you doing?
That's right.
Finish.
It's a good one, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the way it should go. Because if nobody touches nothing and we still acknowledge each other.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, but I hope we can get back to normal as soon as possible.
Oh God, so nice.
It's just killing. I mean, I know a lot of fellow comedians are struggling, you know. And what I think is that the bigger comedians, at the end of the day, once things go back to normal, I think they're going to be just fine because they will fill up the arena. I think it's a more middle to lower level where it's going to hurt the most.
Totally.
Because even like for singers, I'm thinking even after you're allowed to go back and watch any performances, if you're Madonna, you're still going to sell out the 20,000 seat arena.
Right.
You're going to find those fans, but everybody else, it's going to be a real struggle. One, because people are still afraid of sitting next to each other, and then also there's economic aspects to it, where people, you know, the less thing, with 30 million unemployed right now, hopefully things will change shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But after 30 million unemployed, the people that haven't worked for months,
right?
Exactly. The last thing they want to do is spend money in entertainment. They're going to spend it first on necessities.
Totally, absolutely, I agree with you. And you know, statistically, it's funny. This is what I heard last night. They were trying to explain about the entertainment aspect of it. And they were saying that singers and comics, especially high energy comics, like myself, you know, when I'm on stage, I'm very high energy. I'm very loud. So I'm not like sitting there going, so I walked into a room. I'm like, hey, you know, I walked into this freaking room the other day. Oh, mother of God. So there's a lot, like spit comes out of your mouth. You don't mean to, but you know what I'm saying? You're excited. And with a singer, same thing. Now, it's not a joke. You can ask Alexa because oh shit, I said a name. Right now, I asked her before and she confirmed it. All right, I said how fast, because I heard this on TV. They said singers and comics are going to have the hardest time because the audience is going to have to be in face masks, which is hard because they better laugh loud because you can't see them smiling. You know what I mean? They do something. They're going to have to move their shoulders, or something, right? But they're saying that the singer or the comic, you got to be careful because did you know how fast a sneeze moves through the air?
I actually do know. For example, if you're in a plane and you sneeze, you're going to hit the next two rows in front of you and the two rows behind you.
All right. Well, all right. I'm going to give you the accurate speed. All right. How fast does a sneeze come at you? 102 miles per hour. Average rate 90 miles an hour.
Hey, you.
Imagine.
Wow.
You'd be like knocked the freak over. No, you'd be like, what the fuck? Don't you sneeze?
Is it driven by Andretti?
Yeah. So that's what it said. You could ask Alexa, she'll tell you. But I mean, so that's the scary part. It's like you're up there and all this stuff is flying out of your mouth, and these people are sitting in the audience, like, you know. So,
wow.
Hey, we just gotta pray to God, you know, because I mean, it's just been so devastating, and so many people have lost their lives, and you know, I'm sure friends that you know as well as I know.
I actually do know people that have passed away from COVID.
Me too. Yeah.
And a lot of my friends, like even through a lot of friends who's lost parents, who lost. Thank God, at least from my side, I don't know anybody who's lost any children, which is
thank God, yes,
devastating.
I know.
You know, but I mean, I'm lucky where I live because I know if you live in New Jersey and New York City area. That's crazy. But where I live, you know, we're more like the Canadians, New York. We're like near Niagara Falls. Around Rochester, we're talking about 150 deaths, 150,
Wow.
160, which obviously, God bless everybody that lost their life, but it's
Right.
not the 25,000 around New York City.
Well, it's interesting because I live in Bergen County, which is the highest county with the numbers because I'm literally 6 minutes from New York City.
Right.
So in my county, there have been, I think it's 13,000 or more that have died in my county.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been scary. That's because it's been like we're number two to New York City.
Yeah. That's incredible. And unfortunately, the Northeast, it's the where it's been hit the worst. Rhode Island, the Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. And that's actually where you and I do most of our business in as well. You
Right.
know,
Right. Exactly.
our next show, I believe, I'm going to go to Wyoming. We're going to do Agita play live from Wyoming.
Right. Let's go to Montana too. Don't they have something big out there in Missouri? They have all the casinos in Missouri.
But listen, we got to do something like that. I mean, we'll be the only two Italians in that state, but
But between me and you, we'll make nice pizza for them. You know what I'm saying?
do you realize I was looking at because I love numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I love to check out like basically the whole state of Wyoming, which is a huge state, only has a little more than 1 million people.
Right.
The whole state. Cheyenne, which is the capital, it's only like 400,000 or 500,000 people. But anyway, going back to what we were saying, hopefully, I think that the only miracle that we can hope for is that in 2001 there was SARS, which did not really impact the United States, but our friends in the north, like Canada, was impacted heavily. The Toronto area. But all of a sudden, the SARS, the strain of the virus, end up disappearing, and that's what I'm hoping.
That's what I'm
That
hoping for too. Really.
everything will be back to normal 100%. Because as you were pointing out before, the vaccine, a lot of people might not want to take it because they don't trust it because there's not enough time to really do, a real
Proper
trial.
testing. Yeah. Proper
Yeah.
testing. I agree. I totally agree with you, Tony. Now you know
So-
what? I have to put you on the spot because I would like to tell a story. It's my favorite story. My favorite Tony Napoli story. And
Oh,
each
God.
time I get a chance to tell this story, I tell this story. So I think it's befitting that I do it right here on your show. When I met Tony years ago, I think we were hanging. I think we were in a diner after the show, or having one of the restaurants or something after the show. And Tony sits down, and when Tony, you got to know Tony. He's a good guy. He's a big personality. When he sits down, he sits at the head of the table, and he owns the freaking table. That's it, right? It's the table now, and so you listen to this guy because he's fun. So he's telling a story about his beautiful daughter. What's your daughter's name again?
Natalia.
Natalia. And at that time, she's a little girl. Now I saw a picture on Facebook. God bless.
Yeah, she's getting up there.
She's beautiful. God bless her. So he's sitting there. We're all sitting there. We're starving after a show, and he's telling this story. He goes, he goes, my daughter, she had to do something like a report for school and get up and talk about Martin Luther King. So, I was telling him about Martin Luther King. He was a great man, and this and that, and beep, bop, bop, bop. So he finishes. He goes, and then the next day she goes to school and does a thing, and then my wife comes over to me and says, "What'd you tell the kid?" And Tony goes, "What are you talking about? I told you he was a good man. He's a big man. He did help people." And, oh, really? We know what your daughter did. She stood up in front of class and she said, "Martin Luther King was a great man. He did a lot of good things." And they shot him. What are you going to
do? That's a true story.
What are you going to do? They shot him.
Actually, Regina De Chico, I forget for what she posted something about it not too long ago.
I'll tell you, we know.
Yeah, I after 2 hours of teaching her what a great man he was, and I said, just so you know, he got shot. And she goes, "That's so sad." I said, "But what are you gonna do?" bad things happen. And then the way she explained it to the teacher made me seem like a monster. So, but that was,
The way you said it, you got shot. What are you going to do? It was so classic Italian. And just to picture it coming out of this little kid's mouth, it was like the funniest story ever. So every time I feel blue, I always think of that story and you make me.
I got many more for you when next time we see each other. But we're almost out of time. The hour actually really flew by. It's been great to talking to you. But I got one more question.
Okay.
Let you go. Everybody obviously has been focusing on the negatives of COVID-19. Tell me something positive that's come out of it.
Well, the positive is, I think, is that it's making people realize the value of things around them, how important it is. And I think people are gonna change. Not necessarily our environment or social distancing. Of course, that's going to be part of it. But I think people are going to react differently with each other now, because I think they realize how volatile we are. And that's the serious part of it. The other thing is that I wash my hands more than I ever have in my life. All the time. And now it's like I have to put cream on them every second because they hurt from washing them all the time. I mean, really. And the one thing I notice is that there's no reason to wear lipstick if you're going to put a fucking face mask on. Because every time I take my face mask off, the lipstick is inside, Tony. Do you understand? It's inside the face mask. No one knows.
I'm looking at your beautiful house behind you. I don't see any stacks or toilet paper. You're not one of those?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but I thought that after, at the beginning of the virus, I wasn't sure what the side effects were, but I thought it was diarrhea.
Diarrhea, oh God.
Because everybody was running out and buying toilet paper. So,
well, Tony, I'm still trying to figure out how the hell are we all going to have sex while we social distance?
Yeah, I actually saw it in my neighborhood. There was a lady banging on the door, and she goes, "Let me in." And the guy says, "No, social distancing." But he goes, "I'm your wife. Let me in. This is my house." So an excuse to separate from their own.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, Maryann, thank you so much for coming on. You know how much I love you, and I got to tell you, it's always great to talk to you. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of times between artists and comedians, singers, there's not always camaraderie. But I know that I can always pick up the phone and say, I can ask you, and you helped me out many times. Hey, Maryann, I like to go to New Jersey to do a show. What's a good venue to go to? And you'll be the first one to say, Tony, listen, you got to talk to this person. Here's the phone number. And I love the way we can actually help each other out, which is wonderful. It's not always in our industry. It's not always.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, for me, it's always been all about support, because if you don't support me, I can't support you. It's like, that's how we make each other grow and help each other. It's not about keeping things to yourself. That's the way I've always been. And as for you, I want to thank you so much. You did a great interview. I was very impressed. And you know how much I love you. I always have. I think you're a straight shooter, and I appreciate that, because you don't find many straight shooters in this business.
I appreciate it.
So I can't wait to see you in person.
Kiss.
Yes, I can't wait to see you in person. God bless you. Please.
Absolutely. Looking forward to work with you for many more years.
Absolutely. Ciao, Donabella. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.